Welcome to Recovery Unleashed, the podcast where we dive deep into transformation, healing, high performance, and recovery. I'm your host, Hannah Dalby. I'm the founder of Recovery Jungle, Recovery Unleashed. I'm an integral alchemist, food coach, a recovery expert, and also a retired professional Muay Thai fighter and current jiu-jitsu lover. In each episode, we explore what it truly takes to break free from addiction, trauma, self-sabotage, and unlocking a life truly filled with energy, success, and peace. Through my very own story of addiction recovery and raw conversations with experts, coaches, athletes, healers, we uncover the tools and mindset shifts needed to master recovery in every area of your life. This isn't just about healing, this is about unleashing your full potential. If you're ready to reclaim your life, tune in, do the work, and let's rise together. Welcome back to Recovery Unleashed. Today, I'm joined again by Erin Moran from Maintain Lean. We had such a fun conversation last time. We've decided to do it all again and dive even deeper into fueling the body, what fat and trauma mean, how undereating and performance really do tie in together, and how healing and embodiment can change everything to do with your food, your weight, your performance, and everything else in your life. So tune in. This is always full of laughs and should be a good one.
I mean, girl, I have shed more weight since we've talked and I'm talking like not on a scale necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I also just got back from like 5 days in Mother Nature.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's been this space of like deep reverence for what my body is able to do and moving through what was massively chronic pain in my upper neck and back region. And I think it's a combination of like literally exiting a fat loss phase early, because I was like, if I'm going to do neuromuscular release and OMT, there's no way I'm not going to provide my body the nutrition that it needs. And so like it became this space of, I knew this year would be a return to long distance running. I just didn't know when it would happen. And that, like, I've literally went from massive chronic upper back neck pain, which has been a pattern now since 2021, to like running through trails and hills for over 4 miles over the past weekend.
Wow.
In like less than like essentially a month's time.
Yeah. And what were you holding on to in your neck and your
I mean, like it was almost like the shoulders represent the weight of the world anyway, but if I had to really, nothing really landed until I was in this retreat with people who were like architecting the new world at a different level than, and all of the spaces that I've seen gaps, I've seen where they're all interconnected with what we do with nutrition and fitness in this world. And like, because of there's an interconnection, it's almost as if I took on the responsibility to shift that as well. But instead, what happened, like there wasn't a massive breakthrough. It was more of like, oh my gosh, people actually have this and they've got like a strategy for it. And I can just walk away from all of that and not have to care and go back on and focus in on where God wants me or where like my mission is. And it just was like gone.
Beautiful.
I full on goosebumps just sharing that with you. Like it was just gone. I was like, oh yeah, why would I take, of course I would take that on. That's the parentified child. Of course I would take on anything connected into what kept me fat for so long. I was like taking on as part of my mission. It is so not. It's absolutely so not.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that so much. The weight that you are carrying that is not yours to carry, that you have had as a burden since a child, and no wonder the weight wouldn't move.
Exactly. Right. And so all of a sudden it's like that inner working model. Like if you think of it, like the way my nervous system was architected as the oldest, right, was to take on the burden of others, just like naturally. Like I remember feeling that when I escaped my household as the oldest and went to college. Like I took on this guilt that I was like leaving what was scary in some degree. Unpredictable is a better word for it. Like dad was an alcoholic or came home drunk and we didn't know if he'd be safe. It was just that simple, right? And so that pattern had continued into like even this work. That like that did not land until last week.
Yeah. So tell me how then this will allow you to show up differently for clients.
Oh, I think it enables me to show up differently for myself and for clients and for, everybody, right? And it's this space of all of the voices that used to be in my head as if I wasn't getting to certain things fast enough have now so dissipated. And it literally has become this like, oh no, I know to do this, and this over the next month. And that's it.
A softening, a leaning further into feminine energy, like receptivity. Yeah. Okay. So
Of course.
I love this so much because of our like crazy Capricorn interconnectedness.
Yeah.
Um, and the reason is that I thought I was going to die over the last 2 weeks. I am the most motivated, like naturally motivated, disciplined. I bounce out of bed. I'll do all the things like, and I did not want to get out of bed. I was hiding under blankets. I don't want to do this. Too much triggering in one go by a whole bunch of men in my life that were important. And so it was like Gavin, actually, he was at my house for a week. And when he left abruptly, it was like abandonment trigger. And then I rang, and it triggered something that had happened with me and my dad. And so I called him on the Sunday to like tell him all about it, be like, this is what I was upset about. This is the thing. And he like got right on the defensive. And it was like, I was calling him about an abandonment wound and he couldn't hold the space. And it was like, ripped me to shreds. Deegan was at work, like away at work. So I was just like, it was so much on my system that by the end of the week, I was actually getting like I could feel my nervous system vibrate, going zzz, zzz, like up and down. I was like, what the fuck is happening to me? And my knees screwed up, like both of them. One went and then the other one went. And I could like barely walk upstairs. And I was like, what is going on? I couldn't kick the pads. I was like, this makes no sense. And it all came down to this letting go of the need for the approval from dad and what he thinks is right or what Gavin thinks is right, what Deegan thinks is right, and allowing God to come through me. And as soon as I got that, and then like we did some work around it, and it came to this like, it doesn't matter what he thinks I should do, what they think I should do, what their way is. Like it actually does. I can just walk my own path in my own way, as slowly as I want, as carefully as I want, as magically as I want. And my strength coach who works at the Recovery Jungle, he was like, oh, like, I don't understand what's happening with your knees. It's got to be this, it's got to be that. I'm like, seriously, trust me, it's emotional. And I went to my fascia release lady and she was like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with your body. This makes no sense. And I was like, yeah, because it's emotional. I'm telling you guys, this is all emotional. And on Sunday, I did this like 3-hour release with Deegan around all of this stuff. Knees are fine. Knees are totally fine. But it's like, and it has been a softening. The whole thing has been a softening into receptivity because it had been dangerous to receive, to be taken care of, all of these things because there was conditions, because it was not done in their way, all of these things of like, this is the only way we will provide for you. And so in being able to allow being taken care of, allow financial support, allow other people's support without that condition, and it's now safe, I can just completely soften and slow down and let it all magically land. And it's exactly that. It's a softening into receptivity, into femininity, and just allowing it all to unfold because God comes through and we are magic.
Yes. Like what I'm hearing you say is that once you gave your body permission to lead the way, it cleared. Right. And once that space where like the trigger took place, okay, the abandonment wound took place, that reactivated. But once that was that was named and it was like acknowledged in a way that that's what was going on, you could like be with and like take care of that in a beautiful, like a beautiful state of appreciation, and then find your center again to listen to your center as God flows through the feminine body.
Mm.
So it became less about what others were telling you to do and more about what your own power was directing.
And you can imagine, right? Like I I think about other people that may be walking through life that have just not done this level of work, and how, like, no wonder people are burnt out and no wonder people are exhausted and so fatigued, because just even inside of that, right, I knew to listen to myself, I knew that was what to do, but I would get pulled the other way. And so I'm like, the tension between the two things is like, which one do I do, which is exhausting.
Yes. That tension is fatigue.
Yeah.
We forget. Like we
Yeah.
so forget that so many of us have been so conditioned to stay in that tension, that polarized tension of like what our body is communicating and what others are telling us to
Mm-hmm.
do,
Mm-hmm.
or the perceived amount of responsibility that you've inherited as a child, which
Mm-hmm.
was like not like, which shouldn't have been yours ever to begin with, but we'll recreate those patterns as we grow up until we actually can name them and shift. Right?
Yeah.
We've had a couple eclipses since we last talked, so I'm really
Mm-hmm.
not surprised that this is what's, unfolding for both of us in our retrospective like life patterns.
Yeah. So, and like, physical weight has dropped on you off you as well?
Yeah. And I as well, like when you mentioned like bowel movements, like over the past like 3 or 4 weeks, as my body has come back into equanimity, as I've like retrained certain muscular patterns to actually operate in their intended way, and as I've had, I mean, my neuromuscular release like practitioner found knots in my diaphragm. She's
Yeah.
like, Erin, all of this is coming. I'm like, of course there's knots in my diaphragm. Don't even like I can give you 5 million reasons why there are knots in my
Yeah.
diaphragm,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
easily,
Yeah. Yeah.
easily. But as we've worked to release that, it's like speaking truth is no longer an option. And like there's also this space of being able to sit back and observe what others are doing in their lane, and parts of me being able to be like, oh, wait, why were we making that your job? That's not your job. Why, like, right? And so,
Ah,
as those parts were able to witness those others, like in their own mission, right? And in their own witness others literally doing their aligned work, those parts of me completely released any like facade of responsibility that was my work to do in the world. And like consistently 5 pounds less on the scale over the past like few weeks, not intentionally. And bowel movements have gone from like have like doubled as well.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. And usually I don't see like that level of bowel movement unless I'm walking over, 12,000 steps a day. I haven't had that space at all.
Yeah.
So that in the sitting here with you today and having all of this like unfold as it's unfolding, and like of course it all makes sense.
Yeah. So this carrying the weight of the world from being the eldest child that must take care of all of the people, or like must take care of their parents. I see this one a lot, is like the parent is unable to take care of the child, and or the parents are arguing or they're on their own, and then the parent starts to take care of the child, and then they're like, I don't understand why 15 kilos has just landed on my body over, and it's, do you know what I also am noticing is it happens in this, like, around 50 years old, it gets really bad. It's like you had your chance and now it's all going to manifest onto your body unless you deal with it. It's like the moment to deal with it.
Was it around 50 years old, you said?
I'm seeing it a lot, like all of
Interesting.
these, like, and so really interesting. I don't know if I told you this or not. I had a conversation with my nana a couple of weeks ago, and she was like, she told me the story of she just happened to spend her entire life as a young adult, like flying to the US to learn everything about trauma. I never knew, like, had no idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And she said that she had It's like it's what they would now call multiple personality disorder, which is actually just parts of ourself that are split off. And it's just the work that we're doing. It's just like manifest really loudly. So everyone kind of has it. But she
Yes.
recognized it in herself. Really, really crazy story. She was telling me that her dad came to stay with her and it triggered it all. And she was starting to like say all these things. And she's like, what's happening? And it was like these parts of herself that were unintegrated that needed to say and speak and do these things from her childhood. And so rather than being inside of the work and doing it in the way that we would do it now, she was acting it out in real life. That was what she learned. So she would go to the shops and buy the doll and get the ribbon and play out the whole scenario in the way she needed it to happen to let that part integrate back in.
Wow.
So she's telling me this, like I had no idea. So she's telling me this story a few weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, now my life makes sense. But she was saying to me, she was like, my theory is that at menopause for women, it's like, okay, well, now you're finished raising children. So now all the stuff that you have not dealt with will now surface. So all of like, she's like witnessed it all through her life. Menopause hits, and then the fat comes on, the rage comes out, all of these random things happen. And it's just the unprocessed trauma. It's just the old stories that are no longer serving. And it's like, well, you're done being a mother now. So now here's the time for it to all come out for you to deal with because you haven't dealt with it. And so even in, Gabor Mate's book, he talks about like, you know, people getting to this certain age in their life, and it's like it's almost like the last trigger happens, and then suddenly disease comes online, suddenly fibromyalgia, suddenly cancer, suddenly this, and it's like we get to this age, and it all manifests in a way. It's like, and is it the final trigger because it's just been built up so much? Or is it like this is the time of your life where you're no longer biologically needing to parent and take care of others? So now it's time to deal with this stuff. And had we just dealt with it earlier? I don't know. This is like all coming together from little pieces.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. Like there's so many different ways we can deconstruct just the last 3 minutes of this conversation, right?
Yeah.
Because you're hinting up on multiplicity, which is a very important concept that we like haven't been taught
Yeah.
in like which is that we all have multiple parts of self and all of these parts make complete sense. And as we learn how to love these parts of us, they'll reintegrate back in and really support like who you want to become.
Mm-hmm.
And that just is fascinating that your nana had such a beautiful awareness of that just naturally and how that's impacted you. What else is at play here? And I see it, a lot of the women that I support are perimenopausal, even in that menopausal range. And it's what's I find so fascinating about this is it's essentially like right after your Uranus opposition, right? And that's in this from an astrological or as above space. Like, so if we just strictly think of like physics here and the astrology of it all, where you've got as above and so below, if what's going on energetically, like the moon is going to impact the ocean. We know this. That's
Yeah.
ocean
Yeah.
physics. One of my best friends is a PhD in ocean physics, and like he understands how like meteorologists often get the surf wrong because we're not actually listening into like what the moon is doing. And so if the moon is impacting the ocean on Earth, it's absolutely going to be impacting us. And I don't use astrology as a false god. I don't use astrology as as anything other than a benchmark. And so if you think of what the Uranus opposition is doing, it's just, like the stars are going to come in and they're going to, and it's very similar to like that time of year where those years right before you're going into menopause. And it's literally going to say, if you are not on your aligned soul map and actively living it out, I'm going to send your body so many different symptoms or dis-ease or all of these
Yeah.
things. And like, I'm going to force you to figure it out. Like you had an opportunity at your Saturn return, and if you totally missed it, it's gonna be like boom. It'll like it's exponentially a bigger deal in the Uranus opposition space. And if we just understand that from, we all live in a solar system, we're rotating on Earth, planet Earth in a solar system. And it's this space where like part of me is like, I don't know if I even buy into menopause anymore.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Exactly right.
I lived like the menopausal woman, like I lived that in my 20s and my 30s. easily lived that. In fact, like I would argue that like the where my hormones were because of what I had my body was put through with diet cultures and personal trainers and all of these other these professional people telling me how to eat, where my hormones were in 2018 are like it's night and day difference as compared to where they are today. And I
Yeah.
would argue that like if we were actually like fueling our bodies to preserve lean muscle, quote unquote menopause would look a hell of a lot different across this country and the world,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. So that like, tell me, well, talk to me more about then like the muscle mass and the fueling for the hormones and for like performance and energy, just from that state. Like, forget about the weight loss for a second.
Think of it this way, muscle, and this is not my phrase, but I'm going to use it. Muscle is the organ of longevity. That is not I don't own that. That is not mine. That is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she deserves all the credit for that because she's absolutely right. And it like with the organ of longevity, it is absolutely impacting how you're receiving nutrients. It's impacting what your body is able to do with the nutrients in the food. And like food and nutrition is that like food and nutrition in and of itself is going to impact neurotransmitters in your brain and what you're able like the hormones you're able to produce. So let's just say we've had a mass like directive to eat less, move more, and calories in versus calories out. Let's just, pretend those are mass directives over the past like 30, 40 years. And women have been playing in that like directive, like the majority of them. All we're going to understand about the menstrual cycle is what's been controlled with like that control versus non-birth control, and then the output of calories in, calories out, eat less, move more. Those two directives in and of themselves will down regulate every single like hormone that we possibly could have because it's also impacting the nervous system. And if what we know scientifically about our like rest and digest state, where our body feels safe to produce the hormones we actually need, is limited, that's already limited. So I'm literally not buying into menopause because we don't understand it from the state of rest and digest yet. We just have science that's supporting survival states.
Yeah.
Why would I sign up for that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? So you've got like contraceptive pills and all of those things the entire time, and a lack of nutrients, a lack of fuel, and overtraining all mixed together. And then I guess you've also got like in the 90s, women went to work and had like had now we've got to fight against these men and try and like, I mean, I speak to women that are in the academia world and they're like, oh no, you don't understand. Like I had to work twice as hard as all of the men to just keep my place. So, I mean, that's very different now. And there's also, that's a whole other podcast and conversation to deep dive into all of that, but there's kind of at play as well. And so no wonder the nervous system is fried. No wonder there is burnout. No wonder the body isn't doing what it's doing. Like it actually makes complete sense that you would land in that place and that everything you do doesn't seem to work because you can't out supplement that. You can't just out train that. You can't just like go on another stupid diet and it's absolutely not going to work. Like it makes sense. And then people are so frustrated like this, it worked for all of my life and now I'm in this place and nothing seems to work. And how much divorce happens around that age as well. Like men can't survive the menopause. They don't understand it. Women can barely survive the menopause. Like relationships don't survive that state either.
Exactly. Right. And if you think of like that label that we're putting on a down regulation at a certain age based off what we know today in it, it all makes complete sense because it takes us further away from a sovereign unit in a secure like relationship, right? So let's label things and manifest these things that that come in the way of all of that. I mean, I know, like I like my 20s and my 30s, it was like I had zero testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
I was estrogen dominant and my progesterone was like low to if not nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like that's not I mean, it's darn near what could be what happens to women in menopause. Typically,
Mm.
estrogen is what's tanking, right?
Mhm.
And that has a different impact. But along with estrogen taking, everything else is tanking. And so, like, it just, like, without testosterone, this is what I tell my clients, without testosterone, there's no drive. There's
Yeah.
no hunger or drive.
And it's actually like you undereat so much, you get no hormones at all. Because that's what I went through,
Exactly.
is like there was actually no hormones. Like you don't get a single one. The starvation was so much. And then, so another interesting thing happened in the last week, right? That it like put all of these pieces together for me. It was in that when I was telling you about how like I could feel this like zapping up and down my nervous system. And I was like, I wonder if I need B12 because like you spike adrenaline and cortisol that hard, it just drains all of the B12. It's why they give B12 to drug addicts and people coming off of alcohol because that raises the adrenaline and cortisol so much and it drains all of the B12. And in my 20s, I had B12 anemia because of all of the stress that I was under. I remember a fight that I had, and I couldn't understand why I performed so badly. I was like, this makes no sense. I'm better than her. I fight better than this. Like, what's going on? And I went and got a blood test the next day, like zero B12, zero iron. And it was like, but I'm eating, like I'm having all the things, but it was just like tanking it from the adrenaline and from the cortisol. So in last week, I'm like, I wonder if I'm lacking in B12, or it's like I've drained it somehow because the stress was so much. Because it was like I had moved through all of those triggers. I had a staff away, like I was holding everything, and like it was like enough reasons to. So I went down to this chemist and got myself some B12 and jabbed it in my leg. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm fine now. That was definitely what happened. And so, like, that level of adrenaline and cortisol, which happens through holding onto that stress, holding onto that trauma, holding onto those stories, you're just like running at this adrenaline state all of the time. You don't give yourself nutrients, you increase adrenaline and cortisol. You overtrain, you increase adrenaline and cortisol. That's stripping you of all the nutrients. So not only are you not eating enough, you're also being stripped of all of it at the same time. And you have those the two things raised, you're not going to rest properly. You cannot possibly rest properly when your adrenaline's up that high. You can't possibly let go of fat when your cortisol's up that high. Again, like there's a hormone component, and now there's a nutrient component that's just stripping everything away. Like it's not like, oh, well, I wonder what's happening to me. This makes no sense. It makes complete sense. All of it makes complete sense. And it's actually amazing that you're even coping with a single day.
That right there. It is amazing you're coping with a single day.
Mm.
It truly is. Like what they are surviving with like we had literally had like similar journeys. Same,
Mm.
completely burned out of B12 and B6, like all of the Bs, which if you're low in any of those, it's not only going to impact your nervous system's ability to regulate, but it's also going to impact your liver and how your liver can even detoxify. Which, so if the liver is like in any phase of liver detoxification, if any phase, there's three, if any of them are clogged or backed up, think of it like a sink or like your drain gets clogged with hair. The same thing can happen with your liver. Just think of it that way, right? From a
Yeah, yeah,
metaphor perspective, the same thing happens with the liver, and bees are very critical for all of that. So like what we're saying here is that like a low nutrient profile and a high stress profile or low hormone profile, and you're guaranteed fat gain.
yes,
It doesn't matter how much food you're putting in the body.
yeah,
That is a recipe for fat gain.
yeah,
Like both of us have lived that. Like I was beyond like my first fat loss phase after I had repleted the nutrients that I was missing at like in my like from diet culture in my 20s and most of my 30s. The first fat loss phase was like it I was like, how am I losing inches and how am I losing fat? Because this is so easy.
yeah,
To get there, it didn't take. So here's what I really want to drill home because
yeah,
my clients literally struggle with this the most. To get to that space, it looked like eating more for like multiple years in a row.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what it's so hard when you're stuck in this space of just trying to survive the day in the body profile that you're currently in, which is depleted in nutrients and depleted in hormones and depleted in neurotransmitters, which is like going on in your brain, so your brain can't even think, like all of those things, it's the hardest thing to wrap your brain around.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good indicator, right? If your brain can't function properly and you're like, how do I make this? Like, eat more food.
Yeah.
You're probably hungry.
I mean, that, and also it's like, what's going on, in your poor tummy? Because like half the time it's like, yeah, eat more food, but then it becomes this space of, do you even have a tummy that is able to digest and absorb
Yeah.
the nutrition you're putting in?
Yeah.
So I just got back from 5 days in the woods without service. And I speak about how the gut can impact all of these things. Like, you can be eating as clean as you want, but if you have a high stress profile and you're in chronic, burnout situations, that tummy isn't actually able to absorb the nutrients from that.
Here's a like direct point to that, which loops back into everything that I've just said. We were Sunday morning, we're sitting on the balcony at my clinic and we've got the in-body scan machine in there and we're looking at our things over the last couple of months. And Deegan's having this issue, like he's trying to build a lot of muscle right now and he's a man and he struggles with it. And, the amount of food he's got to eat is a lot. And he works away. So he's like, when he's home, he gains muscle. When he's at work, he drops it. When he's home, he gains muscle. And it's like, so we're trying to figure this out. And I'm like, yeah. And he looks at mine. He's like, yours goes up and down. And I'm like, yeah, but mine trends down, so don't worry about it. And he looks at it closely and he's like, you put on fat when I'm home. And I was like, oh. And then I was like, okay, well, like, let me feel into that. And then I realized after all of this stuff that I've just gone through the last couple of weeks, it's my inability to fully receive the love and provision that he gives to me. And it's because it's been terrifying. When he's here and he's like taking care of me, providing for me, protecting me, there was still a part of my entire nervous system that was like, this is dangerous. And so it was actually like underlying building a level of stress in my body and my fat. And I remember getting really mad at it one week because I had like done my like Muay Thai training 3 times in the week. I'd eaten perfectly. And like my fat went up and I was like, this is bullshit. And he went away the next week and I was like eating whatever and my fat came down. I was like, interesting. So it was like, I'm very interested to see what happens after these huge releases while he's home, because on Monday morning after he actually held the space for the alchemy on Sunday to undo all of this. And he said this statement to me. He said, because I said to him, I said, what I really want is to be taken care of financially so well that I can just create. I want you to just take care of everything for me, all of the bills, all of the things. So I'm not going to sit on my ass. I don't want to sashay around. I don't want to do nothing. I want to use that safety to go and create. And he was like, yep, I hear you. I want to give it to you. I'm like, we're getting there. Like, he does take care of me financially in very, very beautiful ways. Not fully, not completely. I still, contribute. And I'd never said that out loud before. I'd never said, like, actually what I desire is to be fully taken care of so I can go and create. And he said, I'm getting there. Like, it's getting close. I'm going to get there for you. I want to give this to you. And I said, yeah, but what if you get there and then I've already made so much that I don't need it? And he said, well, that's okay. I'll give it to you anyway. Like, you can go and do that. I will still give that to you so you never have to worry about it. And I was like, oh, well, okay then. I'm now free to go and be as big as I want to be and as free as and make as much magic as I want to be. And I don't have to keep myself small to get this desire met of being taken care of. And on Monday morning, I woke up and there was like a shadow had been lifted from everything that he provides for me. Like, I can really allow this in now. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I have been unappreciative of all of these things because I've not been able to receive it because it's been so scary and terrifying and all of these things looped into it. And so now it's like, I can feel the provision. I can feel the love. I can feel and I can really receive it. And inside of that, I can then also take my own responsibility and stare my own responsibilities in the face and go, like, in receiving all of this, I can still stare my responsibilities and both can be true at the same time. And that is full balance of masculine and feminine energy within me, right? And so now while he's here and taking care of me, my nervous system can relax. So I am very excited for what my body does over the next couple of months.
Yes. Because what I'm hearing you say and what you've activated, right, in a way within your container of your relationship is a safety of release and receive.
Yeah.
And it's that constant state. Like I like to think of that as the Taurus, right? And what you've highlighted so well for listeners is that receiving is like you feel it. You
Yes.
literally
Yes.
feel in your body what it like. If you're able to receive, it is a sensation in your body that you can feel. And instead of like becoming smaller or avoiding or running away from, you feel safe to actually speak what that truth is about what it is you're receiving.
Yes.
And like how you put that was so eloquent because like for the longest time I as well didn't realize that receive was actually a sensation.
Not just allowing something to happen.
Correct. You're not
Yeah.
just allowing the doing of other.
Yeah.
That's not like
It's
so
not
many
it.
of
That's
us
not
like
it.
so yeah, so many of us think that receiving is just allowing a doing,
Yeah.
but receiving actually has a being, a feminine component.
Yes.
And that like a lot of like so if you're unable to sense that like I would classify that as a sensing skill, and that's part of the lean and strong system that I literally walk like women in my membership through, where there's these 12 different skill set. And what you're highlighting here, Hannah, is that sensing is it's so critical because of how our body will protect us when receiving doesn't feel safe. How
Yeah.
that protection happens is like, a Baker Frost cake and it just looks like fat coming on.
Yeah.
Because like it literally that's what it feels like. It feels like you're not changing your eating, you're not changing your workout routine, but all of a sudden like something shifts or something goes on in your life and you wake up and it feels like a baker just added another layer of frosting of fat on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And like what we're highlighting here is that like it's not just calories in, calories out that is impacting this.
Yes.
We are an energetic being. We're a soul in a body vessel, and we are not just like algebraic simple math. We are quantum, complex, like systems thinking biology.
Yeah. Yeah. It is like, and it's even the calories that you are eating have all of that within them.
Yes, there's teeter-totter relationships between nutrients in the body, and your blood work is a really beautiful way to see these patterns. So many of us are taught like that, you go to the doctor and you're told that everything is normal, depending on the labs that they're running, which is never complete, and it's not the way it works. That complex, that complex systems thinking quantum models literally apply to blood work as well, which means nutrients. There's seesaw relationships, not just 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah. So I mean, this is what makes me. I was actually saying this the other day, and like, why is it so difficult for us to have immediate blood? Like, because the technology is there. Why is it so? And the US is actually a whole lot better than Australia because when we were over there a few months ago, there was like one that you could get if there happened to be a lab in the US, like it was near you, that you could get it in like 4 hours. But the technology is there for us to stab our finger and get the blood work like pretty damn quickly and immediately. And it shouldn't be that expensive. It shouldn't be that inaccessible. You shouldn't have to go to a doctor. You shouldn't have to wait for a week for the results. You shouldn't have to go through them and pay this exuberant amount of money. Like what I would do for immediate bloods in my clinic.
What you would do for immediate bloods in your clinic? Tell me, like,
Yeah.
is that a question or like?
Yeah, well, I just think it's like it needs to be more accessible. Like it shouldn't have to
Yes,
be nurses and like these
I
like
got you.
pathology. You know what I mean? Like like the
I got you.
technology is there. We should just be able to go.
Yes.
Yeah, we can just test our bloods and print out a the results for us because the technology is there. Why is it so like red taped for us to access that?
It's red taped. Yes.
Yeah.
And that, thank you. Yes. I like part of like when I promised myself, like I would like come up with it, I would build a solution that got rid of it as much red tape as possible, like the red tape that I had to go through in my journey, which required like flying to multiple states
Yeah.
because, legislation in certain states has like, gives certain types of doctors like prescription rights versus non-prescription rights, et cetera, et cetera. And part of that includes being able to pull blood work. Like I'm not diagnosing anything, I'm finding those red flags. So what I'm
Yeah.
hearing is that you're not like you don't have that ability to have that in your clinic yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
and
I would
that's
love to
and
solve that problem so that it can
yes.
just be. I mean, I don't remember the name of the company. I should find it. There's a name of a company. There's a company in the US that I found it at the biohacking conference, and you did like 2 finger pricks on a thing and you got the results in about 5 hours. And you could have that machine in your clinic so long as they had a pathology place in the state somewhere or like reasonably close that they could come and get it. So like it's getting closer, but the
We're
things that
getting
we
there.
could do for people, because I'm imagining, right? I'm imagining my clients are coming in and, I had, for an example, I had one this week and she's going, I need an integration week. I need a week off. What I could do for her if I could immediately see her bloods and go, maybe you don't need a week off, maybe you need B12 shot, maybe you need this, maybe, you know what I mean? It's not about like diagnosing and this is how you're going to die or anything like that. It's like, this is out, let's just like support here. This is out, this is what's actually going on for you, rather than people thinking like, oh, all these terrible things are happening.
Agreed. And we're getting in the States here, like I'm really impressed with like about a 24 to 48 hour turnaround. But
Yeah.
I know like at biohacking conferences, there's area like the technology exists.
Technology
It's
exists.
just it's there. It's
Yeah.
just not wildly available on the norm. And that is like just thank red tape for that because there's all types of red tape that's
And
blocking that
then
space.
the cost, right? Like the cost,
Yeah.
like yeah, you could do that and get full bloods there, and like we can do them privately here, but it's like for me to get the things that I actually want is like $900 if I do it privately.
That's $900 for you. And wow, I can get it down to about 268 for bloods. Like for like a really decent like wellness panel that will tell the story of what's going on in
Yeah.
like in the body across the organs. That doesn't include hormones. If they wanted hormones, that's typically another 350. So I mean, I could easily get to 900
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
between yeah, yeah, between
Like
bloods.
why aren't we just able to have that damn information ourselves? Like that's our information. It's not that expensive to do. The technology is there. Give us the damn information.
I, you're preaching to the choir, my friend. You're preaching to the choir.
Because like, but it's so true, right? It's an integrative, holistic thing that is required here. Like, I am the biggest advocate in the world, and our entire clinic is like we are integral alchemy, and then we support with other things. But you just do that emotional work, and you're not looking at nutrition, and you're not looking at the micro parts of how your body's functioning. You're not lifting weights. You're not doing like you're still not going to be all the way there. And so people are going out to these different places and it's like, well, this person's telling me this and this person's telling me that and this person's telling me this, and no one's talking to each other about it. Like it does require all of those things. And then I can imagine people listening to this and going, that's a whole shitload of work to do to get my shit together. Like the
It
overwhelming amount of
it's
stuff to do.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is. It's like it's this space where like you couldn't pay me to go into a fat loss phase without understanding certain elements of my body. I like to think of it as body sophistication. It's a body sophistication skill set that you need to learn to exit that yo-yo weight loss pattern. And like think of like and that part of that body sophistication and you can is like becoming aware of what's going on at a micro and macro level inside of your body. And I get like where your brain is at now, like I've lived it and it is like health related cognitive overload and overwhelm left and right. Right. But there's really beautiful ways that like your hand can be held through
Yeah.
that journey.
Yeah.
And that's like that is exactly like that's why I have a membership for it. That's why it like you literally start with like so many women are unaware of the skill sets that it actually requires to like live in a lean and strong body or to sculpt their body. And it makes complete sense because like all you've only been spoon fed calories in, calories out, and you've been spoon fed eat less, move more, and neither of those will get you there.
But part of the job here is to get like personal trainers and nutritionists on board with all of this and to understand all of this so that you're not going like people aren't walking into a gym and going, yeah, I want to get my shit together and I want to lose weight and I want to do this. And there's no like speaking of cycles, there's no speaking of hormones, there's no speaking of all of this. And it's the culture in there is so wrong. Like it's like it's not helping anyone. So part of this is like, can we allow the trainers and the nutritionists and the strength coaches that have lived a certain way for so long to be able to shift what they're doing in a shame-free way?
That like I eventually will have like certification of like in a trauma informed fat loss or trauma informed whatever you want to call it. That is on my roadmap, if I'm completely honest with you. And I'm partnering with individuals who have like really big relationships in that space already. So like it's
Beautiful.
not seen on my Instagram page, but it's going on in ecosystem mergers behind the scenes to address that exactly. Because and I believe like that is something that like I walk into gyms every day and like I have no choice but to be seen. Like I don't get to hide anymore like I used to. And a lot of that comes with from like personal trainers. Like that profession, they literally don't know how I do what I do.
Mm.
And that like so it like I'm not talking about like I'm talking about how my body moves in space and how my body like looks like not aesthetically looks but like is moving in space. They're like I get mesmerized blank stares basically most of the time, and to even receive that um took work, right? Because even like women literally don't want to go to the gym because they don't want men looking at them. A lot of my clients start that way. I've lived that. And it's, so speaking of like this space where
So
we
so
have,
so hang on. Is this like
yep,
you're taking this from a place of, because what that sounds to me like is witch wound
100%.
in like we can't even own our own sexuality in our own bodies and have boundaries around this and to like own all of that sexuality, own all of that beauty, own all of that, like this is who I am and my boundaries are so strong because there's so, this is where you're going with that. Yeah.
100%. 100%. Like that witch wound is baked into all the curriculum that personal trainers have even been taught.
Yeah.
That witch wound is baked into like our feminine from a collective perspective, right? And that like honestly, like I talk a lot about like the inner athlete. Like I like the identity that I'm helping women embody is their inner athlete. Like less than 2 months in my membership, and I have women that are like having voices in their head that desire the gym. They're like mind blown because they're like, Erin, I've never had this voice before. And we're less than 2 months in. They haven't even gotten into the strengthening skill set yet. And they're already like desiring movement finally. And honestly, like if I'm like completely truthful with you, the inner athlete is the witch. They're equal.
Yeah, because it's our strength.
100%.
It's our strength and our power. It's all of these things that is like not been allowed. And if we and when it comes out, when I watch it usually come out, it comes out in a way that is still shadowed masculine.
Yes, because the shadowed masculine um is the only hustle culture portrayal of athlete that we've ever been given.
Yeah.
And when I adopted that, I damn near put my body in the ground and couldn't get out of bed. Like literally couldn't get out of bed without shaking. And like my structure couldn't hold my weight in 2018, 2019.
Well, this is the whole thing right now. And now we like starting to talk about, you know, gender and feminine and masculine. And this is like the biggest trigger of our world right now in,
It is.
in like men are being called to step into their masculine and then think that there is no allowance for their feminine energy and they don't even understand what that is. I mean, there was a conversation I had the other day where a man was telling me that his wife was getting emotional inside of the business because he was just making a decision and she wanted all of the spreadsheets before a decision was made. And he thought that she was in her feminine emotional chaos and he was using his masculine energy. And I said, hang on a minute, you're making an intuitive decision. You're using feminine energy. And he was like, what? Like the understanding isn't even there. And it's actually like, it does, both things need to be there. And there is shame and dogma put on all of it in all sorts of strange ways, in all different cultures, that no one really knows even how they're supposed to behave. And this is this whole thing of, this is how I'm supposed to behave as this man or this woman. And then people get confused. Then we have the gender issues going on. And it's like, well, actually, if you just came home to yourself, your truth, your sovereignty, you will find that both of those exist in there. And both of those are actually okay and necessary.
Agreed. It breaks my heart to see highly successful men unable to step into that receiving feminine side, where you can literally, like, I can see it in their body without asking them questions. Because when you heal things in yourself, you're granted eyes to see it in others. That's just how this works, right? That's just how this journey works. So what it breaks my heart the most, like wildly successful men who are grinding, they're grinding and grinding and grinding, and don't realize that if they just took a step to the left a little bit and a little north and a little south from there, they'd be in this like the miracle of the fish in Luke, like to literally quote the Bible, and and only to do that because it literally speaks to an aligned resonance, and meaning that hustle culture isn't needed. You don't need to break your body for to be successful, or break your body to lose weight either.
So
That's not what we're here for.
I think the thing that is actually necessary that gets confused is what they actually do need is structure and consistency. And men should have structure and consistency. And that helps them lead and that helps them provide a safe container. But that structure and consistency doesn't need to be so hard that you can't have a conversation by the end of the day and you're pulling yourself out of bed, how do I even do this other day? It shouldn't feel like so much exhaustion. Yes, you can have structure. Yes, you can have consistency. Yes, you can put all of these things in place to create safe containers and lead from a structured place and have logic and all of these things. That doesn't actually mean use every single part of your energy and plus some and more until you're on the floor. That's not helping anyone. That's not leaving anything left to play. And play should totally be a part of their lives.
I completely agree. And what's so fascinating is that structure and consistency typically get labeled under discipline, but it's actually not discipline at all. It's devotion to your mission. It's a completely different energetic vibration. We're all here on from a mission perspective. There's a mission, vision, and purpose of your life.
I love that.
And so when you're operating in structure and consistency out of devotion for that mission from a legacy perspective, it's a completely different energetic vibration, and then the feminine can rise in that.
Because then it's no longer force.
Yes.
Oh, you've just said all my favorite things. I have been trying to articulate this for weeks.
When you brought structure and consistency up, I was like, oh, she's going there. Bring it on. I'm so happy for that. I mean,
thank you for that. I have been trying to articulate force isn't required and how to pull that apart for weeks. So that was beautiful. Well done.
Thank you. Received. I've had a lot of discipline I'm a Capricorn. I'm a Capricorn sun, right? Double earth air. Okay, so Capricorn sun, and that I literally have that discipline wired in.
Yeah, I'm
But
exactly the
it
same.
didn't, exactly,
Yeah.
right? And it did not provide me with the results that I desired. What does is an equal rest and work and an equal consistency and structure in devotion to my mission, vision, and purpose. That is like an abundance, like operating mechanism that I've had to literally help my nervous system feel safe to receive the fruits of.
So I think this is actually the hardest part. From my experience, it's been the hardest part. The actual, like out of all of the things I've done, out of all of the things I've gone into and the shadows and the trauma and all of the pains I've experienced and sat through, there has been two things that I've found the most uncomfortable. Number one was being seen fully for who I am. That was the start of my relationship with Deegan. And this is why relationships are so beautiful, because they make everything really disgustingly uncomfortable. So it was an ayahuasca journey that I experienced for 2 days, 2 nights straight, what it would be like to fully be seen in all of the parts of myself. And it was horrendous. And then I had to go through the rest of the months and it play out in life. And when it was playing out in life, it was way worse because there was no colors and, you know, a blanket there. And like to really be seen in everything that I am was so uncomfortable and so painful and made me want to run so many times. And we've gotten through that. And now in this moment of these last couple of weeks, there's been some alchemy sessions that I've done, and we've been working through all of the stories and the moments in life. And when someone has asked me to step into a place where I would have been able to receive family and to receive care, or to actually feel what it was like. Deegan was here and we were doing a session, and the guy that was doing it said, "Oh, what does it feel like to have Deegan bring you that blanket?" And I went, "No, I can't do it. I can't go there." And so in all of these sessions, the most painful thing when I go into my heart to start to feel it, I couldn't do it. This is the first time in any of my anythings that I've done that I'm like, I can't go there. It's too much. So the receiving of love, the receiving of being like the receptivity, and the being seen, like, so actually the rising up and the good parts of all of this is actually the most terrifying, can actually feel the most painful, can actually be the most scary thing to do. We can go and look at our trauma all day long. People are quite good at that because we're really good at suffering. We're really good at being in this painful place. But to step into, I can be everything that I am. I can be totally truthful. I can be as loud and take up as much space as I'd like. I can be seen for all of my faults, and I can receive all of the love, all of the abundance, all of the support. That's the most scary.
I mean, I'm sitting here speechless because I completely agree with you. And I've always shared, like, how I've shared my journey is I've literally had to learn how to receive pleasure. Right? And that, like, I'm not just talking about in the bedroom. I'm talking about in all dimensions of wellness. Like what my brain freaked the fuck out when I was on a descent of after climbing a 14er. I didn't train for this. I flew to Colorado on a whim in the middle of COVID because my body literally told me to go to the mountains. And I listened. Okay. I didn't let an outside force like control me. That was 2020. Okay. And I'm on descent from this 14er and I'm freaking the fuck out because I'm not in pain. I'm not fighting pain after accomplishing an endurance feat. I'm able to actually accomplish it and not get injured. And I couldn't get off that mountain fast enough because it was so filled with pleasure.
No,
That is dead serious. Like, I know for a fact I will run a marathon and turn around and run it again, and I will have a smile on my face because the first marathon I ran, I should not have been able to finish it. So, like,
the pleasures have been so uncomfortable that it's like, I've got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, like I'm cutting runs short because it feels so good to run in this body. Like for listeners, I left distance running in 2019. Part of me regrets that. Other parts of me knows I needed to shift the relationship with it. Okay. So I'm going back into that now, but I'm in a completely different body. I'm in equal hips. I'm in connected muscle. I'm in strength beyond strength. And I cut my runs short because they feel so good. I'm scared of the consistency because it feels so damn good.
Now?
I'm still. I'm still second guessing the nutrition I know I need. There's still a part of that. Like my runner she's the youngest athletic part of me, right? So bringing her along with me
I
instead
get
of
it.
not
I get it.
running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All this terror, all
It's
this fear is, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big deal because all of the sports that I actively do, I've been doing for like 2 decades, but I have a completely different inner working model. And to bring them back in, so I operate under like a completely different operating system. My brain isn't wired the same way. That's what I mean when I say inner working model. It's a scientific term, but all it is, it's literally, it's like the lens that my eyes see, it's like been reversed. It's the best way to think about it. I
Yeah.
used to see the world through the lens of other. Other came first, right? I've flipped that, and it's like self, higher power, then other. That's not selfish. That's honoring my needs before others,
Yeah.
right? So that shift is real, but the parts of me that are like the athlete still want to default back to that prior relationship.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is why, I think when I look at other forms of therapy modalities that it's like, let's just keep going back to all of the bullshit. At some point, you actually have to turn around and go, what does it look like to go forward? What does it feel like to be in the thing you want to be in? What does it feel like to have the abundance, to be the athlete, to have the body, to have the relationship, and keep pushing forward to the things you truly want and see what comes up in that. We can't just go backwards all the time. You just end up kind of staying where you are without any reactivity. We actually need to push hard forward and find the stuff that comes up, walk into things and go, fuck, like now I'm panicking about this. And it's like, then you really get growth. Then you get momentum. Then you get to really find out who the fuck you are and where the fuck you're going to go.
I love that. And that's the double-edged sword, right? Because what you're saying is that like so many of us get stuck in just the trauma healing, but the actual forward push and the forward momentum, that forward like the inner athlete is so critically important because without that, like there's no growth. And I always like to, it's a double-edged sword because there's a phase for the healing. We can't just bypass the healing and just keep pushing forward. That's what hustle culture taught us to do, to ignore the inner work that's actually needed. But what you're speaking to here, you're exactly right. Because it's like where I'm stopping myself is like from an athletic perspective, it's out of an old injury prone like frame and not my current frame.